20 something, I'm 20 something.
Hi
Hi
everyone.
everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Unfiltered 20 something. I'm one of your hosts, Angela.
I'm Isabel.
Today we're going to be talking about living on your own at the age of 20s. Isabel here is going to be moving back to LA in, what is it, like 6 days? You're flying this Sunday. And that's going to be quite the end of your living alone journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share experience first of you living alone, and what would be some of your tips that you'd be sharing to others that are looking to be living on their own for the first time?
Yeah, so a little background on me is I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. And then after college, I worked corporate for about 2 years in LA before I decided I wanted to move to New York. And I've just always had this dream of living in the city and being away from the suburbs and just like being in a fast-paced metropolitan environment. And at the time when I decided to move, it was during like the peak of COVID. So it was like 2020, 2021. They were basically telling everyone to work remote, right? And so at that point, it didn't really matter whether or not I was in the LA office or if I was in the New York office. So I kind of just moved by my like on my own and then told my boss like after the fact because like I had clients that I was working on also in New York too, so
Oh,
it really didn't matter. I said like, hey, like I've just always wanted to live here. A bunch of my friends from college, they simultaneously for some reason also decided to move to New York. So I'm so glad and like grateful that I already kind of had friends when I moved here. Like, thank God I wasn't like totally alone. And yeah, I moved here with a college friend of mine that I met. Yeah, I met during college and we became roommates. We found like one other girl on Facebook, like on like Facebook roommates, like where you just
that's
like
where,
find random people who you think, yeah, would like
yeah.
work with living with you. And it was like three um three girls, one tiny like 600 square foot apartment. It was like so tiny, and a dog. So
Were you at
um
New York, or were you like Manhattan, or were you like,
yeah, so I was in Manhattan, like on the Upper West Side. Just very, yeah, it's definitely a really different experience moving from California to like a tiny pre-war building that's like built like over 100 years ago, and like gas didn't work. Sometimes like the hot water was shut off, and like it's just, yeah, cockroaches, bugs, mice, and like rats right outside like your window, and like pigeons just
wow.
like chilling on your AC. It was just a different time.
If you were to redo this again, would you move to Manhattan, or would you move to maybe in New York, but maybe somewhere close to New York so that you can travel easily to New York but have a better living condition?
Um, I think because I was younger, like I moved to the city when I was 23. I'm like
Oh,
27 now. So it's been a fat minute, but because I was younger, when you're younger, I think you want to just be where the hustle and bustle is, right? Like you want to be where like everything's so easily accessible. Like you walk like 200 feet, like you have a pharmacy, you have a grocery store, you go like, and also when you're living in the city, you don't have a car, right? Like, and so when you're young, your time is so valuable. The people you meet, like everyone, you want to be where everyone is. Like it's condensed. It's like, you know, I think as you get older, like where I am now, like my late 20s, I feel like I'm a lot more protective of my space and my energy. And I crave like calmer, quieter places versus before, like I was fine. Like when
sorry.
I first moved out here, yeah, I was like fine, like sleeping like 4 hours a day. Like that was so fine for me. And but now it's like a whole different story, you know?
We're not that old, okay? So
I don't know, I
it's
just
like,
feel a lot
okay,
older. Feel a lot older for
late
sure.
20s, but we still like to go out and have fun, just not maybe until 4 a.m. in the morning, right?
It's like an experience. Like I learned so much within that 1 year alone. Like learning what it's like to like live with two other girls and like, dealing with like drama and understanding, like boundaries and just all of that, like respecting people's space. And also at the same time, like I was sharing a space with two other girls. So my rent was actually the cheapest it ever was. Like I was only paying like 1,400 a month for
Sharing
Manhattan.
a room.
My own bedroom, my
Oh, your
own
own
bedroom,
bedroom.
our own like, kitchen, two baths, three bed, two baths. On the Upper West Side is like pretty, it was really good. But it was like during a COVID deal. Like nobody really wanted to live in Manhattan. It was such a different time. Like when we first moved out here, like everywhere we went, you needed to show your vaccination card and your ID or else you can't get in anywhere. It was like, yeah. But yeah, as I've gotten older though, like after that experience, I learned like that was what like helped me realize that I don't want to live with other people. And, like I like living myself, and which is why I decided to like move out of Manhattan and get my own place and live on my own, um, so that I do have my own space and privacy and time, and I'm not like I don't feel like I'm stepping on anyone's like stepping on anyone's boundaries or feeling like I'm stepping on eggshells.
Oh, that's fun.
There's a lot of pros and cons, right? Like you also technically live away from your family, but then you live with a bunch of did you find them on Facebook too? Your
For me,
roommates?
yeah,
Yeah.
on Facebook
But like so
also.
yeah, there's like the pros of like being able to share Wi-Fi and electricity and all those expenses, right? Versus like I'm paying everything like on my own. But like the con is if you don't get along with those people that you live with, it's
Yeah,
actually it would actually be like hell, especially if you're in Manhattan and like the space is so small, like you can't even get out of each other's hair. And I think that's why like I really, really had a hard time after a while living with the girls because like again, it was during COVID, so we were all working remote too.
but I mean, if you guys were, I would assume because you guys were working remotely, you would be mainly in your bedroom. I'm assuming your office space is in your bedroom.
Yeah, and that's what made it hard too. Like just constantly being in this tiny, tiny shoebox of a room. Um, and like the apartment like didn't get any light. And so
Oh
I
no.
yeah, that's another thing I learned. If you move to Manhattan, like you really have to like be very wary of like whether or not the sun hits your your windows, you know? Because like if it doesn't, you're living in an alley and it's just all pitch black all the time. Like not having sun, like it really affects your mental health. And that's something that I never really
Definitely.
knew was a thing. Like people always say, oh, seasonal depression disorder, right? Like it's like if you don't get enough sun, like people in Seattle, like they're more prone to be depressed. And it was like really a thing for me because coming from California, like LA, I got sun every day. And mind you, like even when I was in high school, I was like playing tennis like 24, like I was in on a high school tennis team. I was like playing tennis 3 hours a day, getting sun every day. And even then I was vitamin D deficient. So when I moved out
Wow.
here, yeah, when I moved out here and I didn't have sun at all, like I really felt that sadness like
Yeah.
in me. Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of like out of topic, but as a grad student right now, right? I mean, we're working full time and an online grad student that we're literally probably in front of a computer in our bedroom, maybe 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, just working, right? And I honestly, it's causing my mental health I don't know how to describe what I'm feeling from my mental health, but I just know that when I have free time, I need to go outside. And on top of that, I really love the water. So like I need to be outside doing something in the water, like wakeboarding, surfing, like just get me into the water with the sun. Like just give me some vitamin D. Sorry,
I totally agree. Even like going out for like a walk, you know, because like I also lived right next to the Central Park, so thank God I was like next to a park. So if I ever felt super overwhelmed, I would just take a walk for like 15 minutes, you know. But I totally agree. I think I felt the aloneness once I fully moved out, like on my own, like without like roommates. Um, I moved out of the city as well. Like I definitely felt there were a lot of like lonely times for sure.
So now you're going to be moving back to LA from where you're currently at, New York, all the way back home, right? How are you going to deal with this change? It's going to be totally from you're doing everything yourself, right? From cooking to getting groceries to dealing with the bills to going back home where I'm sure your parents would be mainly knowing your parents, they would definitely be taking care of you pretty well also.
So I'm currently moving back home because I'm like doing an MBA program and I'm like not working right now. I'm just like fully in school. And so it just like financially makes sense to like just be at my parents' place until like my program ends, right? And honestly, the past 6 months since our MBA program has started, it's been really hard because I was like working at the same time, schooling, and just like obviously also doing everything on my own, like everything you said, right? Like cooking, cleaning, like just all of that. And it got a lot after a while. And I honestly just missed being taken care of. Like sometimes just like having food on the table, like having like, I don't know, like laundry done. Like it sounds like so trivial, but like when you're working like 14, 16, 18 hours every single day, like there is burnout. And I think like if anything, I'm so excited that I will temporarily have like some I'll have my family to fall back on during like all of this. Like on top of that, like on top of school, like I'm gonna start recruiting. I'm gonna start like, you know, applying for jobs, and that's just a whole nother thing in itself. My family and I, like although we're like really close, we've always lived pretty separate lives. Like I've always been very hyper independent in that way. Like even in high school, middle school, I've always just like done my own thing, and they trust me to know that I make like my own decisions and like wouldn't do anything like bad. Like they've just always given me the freedom to do and come home and like do things whenever I wanted. Um, one thing I remind myself is we are getting older, right? Like we are in our late 20s. And that just means that our parents are also getting older. And there's not a lot of years or time once you're older where you get to see your parents every single day and spend so much time with them. And so I kind of just look at this as like an opportunity because I know it is temporary. And, you know, I love my brother and I love my mom and my dad like so much that like I'm so glad that I'll have however much time I have to like just be with them and be around them. How old were you when you first moved out?
I technically moved out because of college, and I was born and raised in San Francisco where everything is so cramped, it's so impacted and it's so crowded at the same time. And just coming down to South Bay Area in San Jose where everything was so spacious, and the lifestyle in South Bay is a lot more chill compared to how everyone's lifestyle is in San Francisco. Everyone's like on the go every day, and it's just like traffic. You just waste so many hours just sitting in traffic. I remember currently just driving back recently, driving 2 miles might take half an hour in San Francisco when down in South Bay driving 2 hours, if I was in traffic, might be 10 minutes, right? So it's just like those differences where I know myself that I didn't want to move back to San Francisco.
I think it's so interesting how like you grew up in the midst of chaos and like everything's so compact, and so you crave like the silence and like the slower pace energy. Whereas like other people who grew up in the suburbs are like, I need to get out of this boring ass town and come to chaos and like loudness and insane, like everyone's always go, 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 right? But I also think it's interesting because it still shines, like that part of the go, go, go-ness still shines in your personality. Because like even though you crave like a quiet area, I feel like a lot of people who do live in your area aren't as like go-getter, wanting to like, what's the next thing? What should I do now? Like, how do I, So that's an interesting thing I noticed.
This is more of my parents' personality, where my parents are high achievers. And I'm saying high achievers by my dad used to be an athlete. He swims and he wins, like he like competes, and he would win like gold medals and trophies. My mom, on the other hand, she would tell me stories of how she is always like the top 3 on the list in her class or in her grade or something like that. So I mean, these are high achievers right here, where I don't think that I have what they achieved. So that's why like I think I'm continuously trying to climb to an area where like, oh, I made some accomplishments here also to show you. So yeah, that's the differences between like my kind of like goal getting because of genes, I guess. But San Francisco just have a special spark in it itself, where like everyone knows of each other and knew each other, and it's small, but everyone is really familiar with a lot of places that they hang out with, right? Or hang out at.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like the Golden Gate Park, the Golden Gate Bridge, and downtown is really famous, right? The Union Square. So it's a lot of that thing about San Francisco that a lot of people like staying back at home.
Yeah,
but
and I think that's also very similar to like San Francisco. You said like everyone, it's like a community. So I think like there's an Asian community, and like if you know one Asian, like you kind of, if you grew up in San Francisco, you like know, you'll always have mutual friends. Like there's just like such a community, right? And it's kind of the same here too, like where like all the Asians like moved here from California. So there's like an Asian community who moved to California from California to New York, and they're all like friends with each other. Like there's just, it's like a network out here,
Yeah. I totally agree. It's like the comfort zone that everyone likes, right? And it's very hard to have some that steps out of their comfort zone. I mean, for me, I stepped out of my comfort zone using going to college as an opportunity, and then I was able to have a new group of friends here in South Bay, where I know myself didn't want to go back to North Bay, so I continued staying in South Bay. But I did have an opportunity to leave the Bay Area and actually go to somewhere totally new, where I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, what made you do that?
This one will have to be, when I was young, I always wanted to go to actually Hong Kong to work. And why I had that thought because I grew up watching TVB, Hong Kong television.
Yeah.
And I mean,
so
I'm just
funny.
seeing them on TV, like you want to experience that also, right? So, I mean, you
I
said
don't
you
know.
wanted to be...
I grew up watching that with my mom too, but I was never like, oh my God, I want to move to Hong Kong and work there. No.
I mean, remember you said you wanted to be an Asian Hannah Montana, right?
Yeah.
From our last episode. So I always had a dream to be in in working as a singer for TVB.
Like 香港小姐, like
And
Hong
also Miss
Kong,
Hong Kong.
Miss Hong Kong.
I used to always play the Miss Hong Kong wave with my sister. I mean, you had to continue school, right? Like, and on top of that, I was born and raised San Francisco. It's kind of out of my reach to go to Hong Kong. But that has never left my mind. Like, you know, during COVID, everyone just like, I want to do something different. Like, and something just sparked in my mind where I'm like, why don't I just do something that I've always wanted to do? And that just sparked in my mind that I'm going to just go over to Asia and work. At that time, the spark happened during 2020, and at that time I was not into Hong Kong anymore. I was into mainland China, Beijing, and it took me 4 months to actually land a position that was actually based in a company in China, in Beijing. And I worked over here remotely for 10 months before they flew me in, and I flew into China during early December, and then all the quarantine stuff. That would be probably another podcast. And I secure a place that is in Xichengqu, which is more of a Beijinger's place. I was living in a service apartment where I had a front desk security guard there 24/7, and there's cameras everywhere. So it is very safe in China. I mean, because of culture shock, I came back really early. I was supposed to be there in for a year, and I came back in 3 months. Yeah, living alone over in Beijing, I don't think there's anything different of living alone in Beijing than here, other than one thing that they do really well in China is that they even have grocery service that they can deliver grocery to your house like on the same day.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, and they have DoorDash type of service over in China, but it's a very cheap type of DoorDash service. Like, they don't have all the miscellaneous fees cost. Like, if I was looking at a lunch that cost me $24 RMB, I would say the whole delivery service and everything added on would probably be 30 RMB or 32 RMB. So like, I think those two types of service makes it a bonus to live alone in China, because
don't you think it makes it
there.
But don't you think it makes it even more isolating? Like, if you live alone and then you order your groceries and your food to go, like, it kind of makes people not even want to leave the place there. You know what I mean? And like, let's say you're working remote.
If you were to work remote and you're in China, you might be pretty isolated, because just what like my status, because I was going there for work, right? And I was the only people that I really know was my coworkers. And if you're saying that my coworkers are going to be remote also, then I would not know what to do. I mean,
I wouldn't.
There's classes you can join. In my community, in my housing community, there was a yoga place. There was a gym place, but I've never experienced it because I didn't go. It was way too cold when I was in China. I went there from December to March, so it was winter during that time. It snowed. But I would assume that a lot of people would take these classes and go to these gyms to meet people, right?
Yeah. Is there a reason why? Because it was supposed to be a year thing. Why did it end up just being a 3-month stint? Like, do you think?
I know for sure living in China might not be an option for me. The reason why is because I am totally a person that needs a car. I just feel like my car is my freedom. So without that, I just feel very restricted and constrained. Like I just can't go anywhere. A bit of loneliness played into it. Not being able to meet a lot of friends. Like, I would go out and explore places, but at the end of the day, I was still alone. Like, no one was going with me to these places.
But what was why was it 3 months? When I was
culture shock. Another is that I was quite homesick. I do miss the Bay Area a lot. I think I stayed 3 months is actually a bit longer than what I wanted to originally do. As in, like, once homesick hit me, homesick really hit me, I think, after 3 weeks in, after moving to Beijing. It's a big culture shock there. And just, they have the squat potties. That was one thing I was totally not used to. Like,
Yeah.
I
Maybe it's then maybe what it is like not move to another country, but maybe try another city.
think it's really the safety measures.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really love having my own space, having my own privacy. Just like I love decorating, and so just being able to decorate my own place, like I already have like a full mind of what I want my whole place to be. Like, you know, those Pinterest walls and stuff. I have a lot of those, like how interior design and stuff just saved on my board, you know. So it's like I'm really waiting for a time like I am ready to fully move out and have my own place to actually decorate it and stuff. Yeah, so I would totally be willing to move out on my own. But if you say to move out to another location, yes, I would be thinking somewhere, honestly, somewhere very chill, like the South Bay. I would want to move to probably Vancouver.
Oh.
Because in Vancouver, you're 2 hours away from, I think it was a Whistler, where you can go snowboarding. It's near a lot of like, what's it called, lakes and just bodies of water, which I really like. There's a lot of there's the tourist place, the suspension bridge over there. So it's like everything is just really towards like how I want to live my life, just very chill, very nature-wise.
And people are like really friendly.
Yeah. But still a lot of Asian food, and like you can drive to the downtown where you have the very lively type of mood, right? And then you drive outside of downtown, there's your Asian place with all the Asian food, and just like everything, right? So I would definitely move to Vancouver. All right, so I think we should wrap it up. So that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Isabelle, do you want to add on anything else?
No, tune into our next one next week.
Yep. Bye.